everyone's. Today I'm going to be doing a battle of the cushion corrector products. I have 10 different cushion products here that I will be testing out today, and I will let you guys know which ones are my favorites. So I have two different brands here. I have WetnWild, the new cushions that came out, and then I also have some of the Memebox cushions. So yeah, I will compare them and share them with you guys and let you know which one's my favorite. So starting off with the Memebox one, these are the little bit more higher end cushions that I have out of the two brands that I have. So I have 4 colors here. There's actually a bronzer shade that I don't have, which I swear they must have just added to their website because I did not see it last time I ordered these. So I have 4 colors. The first one is a highlighter color. This one is called Luxe Pink. The next 3 are all like corrector shades, so things that you're meant to use like either under foundation or under BB creams or things like that. So the first one I have here is this lavender one. This one is called Lavender Pudding. Next is Mint Cream, and then finally is Peach Tart. So these I believe are called like the Macaron cushions or Macaron cushions. They look really cute. They're just, you know, really cute packaging. So quickly just how the actual packaging is. You open it up and it has a mirror in here, and it comes with a little sponge on here that you can use to apply the product. There's also this little section here to where the actual little cushion can be stored, and then if you open it up like that, it will come with a little protective like cover that you peel off, and then there is your cushion product. So it's very convenient how you don't have like separate pieces to kind of like put over here and there and stuff, which I will talk about with the WetnWild ones. So the price for the MegaCushions, they are regularly $16 a piece, but they're on sale I guess at the moment for $14 a piece. But there's also a bundle of 3 for the lavender, for the mint, and the peach one, and that is $39. So it's like getting them for $13 a piece. So if you know you want all of them, I would definitely recommend getting the bundle, and you can save like what, $3. And then again, I mentioned that there is a bronzer shade, but I do not have that one, which I'm really like irritated at that I don't have it to share with you guys, but unfortunately I can't do anything about it. And for the size of these, they say that it is 6 milliliters. So now moving on to the WetnWild ones, there are quite a few more ones to choose from in this set. There are actually 6 different cushions that they have at the moment. So similar to the Memebox ones, they have a highlighter one. So this one is called Who's That Pearl? Next, there is a lavender one. This one's just called Lavender. They don't really have that many cute names on these. They also have a mint one, and then they also have a peach kind of colored one. So those are all like the ones that correspond to what I have for the Memebox, but there are 2 additional colors. Again, there is a bronzer shade. This one is called Cafe Au Slay. And then finally there is another color correcting. This one is a yellow cushion, and it's supposed to combat dullness. So there is not a yellow equivalent one in the Memebox, at least at the moment, so I can't really compare that one to anything. So the price of these are $5.99 each, which I think is such an amazing price, especially for like cushion products, especially if you are looking at like true authentic like Korean cushion or Asian beauty cushion products. Those tend to be a little bit more expensive, so for $6 I was really happy with the price of that. And the size of these are 8 grams. So the Memecushion one measures it in milliliters and this one's in grams. You guys, I'm American, I don't use the metric system, but so I don't know how comparable to size that is. They're probably really close in amounts, but I'm just an idiot when it comes to stuff like that. So a little bit about the packaging on this one. So instead of having like a compact style like the Meme ones, these actually are a screw top. So the lid comes off completely. Then inside here you have the little cushion pad in here. Then you also have this interior little cap which comes out, again another separate piece. And then finally you have the actual cushion product. So if you are thinking about all the pieces that this has, it has 4 separate individual pieces that all go together to make the packaging of this. If you're considering the other one, this one technically only has 2 pieces that comes apart. So you have the entire product and you have the cushion. So comparing it alone just on the packaging, I think both of them are actually like really cute style-wise, but I do think the Memebox one is a little bit more convenient because you don't have all these pieces and these parts that you do with the WetnWild one. So of course you've got to take out the cushion, you've got to take out that interior cap, you've got to take out the outer cap, and you've got to like put these places, which doesn't really sound like that much of a, you know, big deal or anything, but it's definitely less convenient than to just have it all as one unit in the Memebox one. So packaging functionality wise, I'm gonna give it to the Memebox one. I think they're both cute. I especially love the name of this one, how it's the Macaron, you know, cushion. I wish it like looked a little bit more like a true like macaron or something, but for packaging cuteness wise, I do really like the illustrations on the WetnWild one. So for cuteness, I give it to WetnWild, and for functionality, I give it to Memebox. Not that those really matter. So the next thing between the two of these is the actual cushion that is soaked with the product. In the WetnWild one, it is super soft and fluffy, and it's really easy to use the little, you know, like puff pad to press into it and get product, and it pulls off a pretty decent amount of product. With the Meme ones, I find them to just be, the cushion is overall a little bit drier. It's a little bit drier. It's not as soft as the WetnWild cushion, and I find that whenever I'm applying it or like pushing into the little cushion to pull up product, it doesn't pull up as much product, which can be a good thing and can be a bad thing depending on how you look at it. Especially with color correcting products, you don't want to go overboard and end up with like green all over your face. But I did find myself having to work a little bit more to try to get the equivalent amount of product to come out of the Meme ones. With the WetnWild ones, it was like, you know, 2 little presses in and it was like really the perfect amount of product. And I also found that the WetnWild ones were overall a little bit more pigmented than the Memebox ones. So now I will cut to the demo portion of me actually applying some of these and talking through and kind of giving you my thoughts as I'm using them. So as far as using all these, I'm going to do one brand on one side and one brand on the other. Obviously, I don't think I can use like all of these on my face at once, so I think for today I will use the peach correctors, the mint correctors, I will use the highlight, and even though I don't have anything to compare it to, I will also use the bronzer cushion. So on this side I'm going to be using the WetnWild cushions, and on this side I'm going to be using the I'm Meme cushions. So first I'm going to start with the mint color. So starting off with the green color from WetnWild, and both of these come with these little like silicone puffs. They're not like a cloth sponge, they're more of a kind of like that silicone-y like beauty blender kind of texture. And so you can see how much color it actually picked up, and now I'm gonna apply it to my skin where I have a little bit more redness. So I think you can see, especially on camera, a lot of that color does really show up on the skin. Not in like a, my face is now green, but there's definitely a noticeable kind of lightening and like color correcting kind of quality to it. So I'm gonna do this side real quick, and then I will get on to the Memebox side. Missing someone. So on this side only, I have the WetnWild mint cushion, and now I'm going to apply the Memebox cushion. And again, using the cushion that came with it, I'm going to apply that to this side. And I don't know if you'll be able to see, but this is super, super subtle in the color payoff. There's a little bit there, but I think on this side, whenever I place the color down, you could kind of see where the color was actually going. With this, I'm really kind of pushing into the cushion to try to get some of that product out, and it seems like it's not really coming too much. So this is the side with the Mimi Mint cushion on it. I definitely think I had to work a little bit harder to kind of get some of the color to show up. Now I typically don't have that much of like super dark circles, but they definitely look a lot darker, especially after just applying that mint color all over my face. It kind of really brightens my skin tone a bit. So next I'm going to move on to the peach, and I will start with the Wet n Wild color. And again, here is the cushion, so I'm going to, just like last time, I just had to barely press into that and I really got some color. So now I'm gonna apply this under my eye to where my dark circles are. So I think you can see definitely from the before and the after, the peach color really kind of actually, I think in my opinion, did a noticeable difference for me. It wasn't extremely subtle, but the color is just perfect enough for me. It kind of almost works as a concealer. I would of course still do a concealer on top of this, but if I was like in a hurry and I really just kind of wanted to cover my under eye circles, I don't know, this one seems to be a pretty good one. It's not super noticeably like, wow, you've got orange under your eye, but I think definitely between the two it looks a lot brighter. So now using the Memebox, again, same thing. It just seems like the cushion is a little bit stiffer and a little drier. So we will see how much color actually comes up. And one thing I also have just noticed, especially with using under the eye, is I feel like I liked the Wet n Wild cushion a little bit more, the actual like puff cushion, because it was a little bit easier to kind of bend like this and fold to kind of get up under the eye area where it's a little bit of a smaller area. I mean, it's still usable with this, but I think that it was a little easier because the full little puff was made of the same material. This one there's a little bit more resistance because of that cloth. Okay, so this is with both of the peach under eye correctors on, and I think just from looking, I think I still like the Wet n Wild more. I feel like you can still kind of see some of that bluish purple kind of undertone under this one, unless I'm just like imagining things, but I feel like this one did a better job at covering and canceling. So for my foundation, I'm going to be using this new one that I got. It's also from Wet n Wild. This is the Photo Focus foundation, and I'm using the color Rose Ivory. So I'm just going to kind of dot it around my face, and then to blend that I'm just going to use my Real Techniques beauty sponge. And you did it right from the start. And you did it right from the start. Okay, so this is both sides with the foundation. I just did that one coat and then just blended it out with my beauty sponge, and overall I think it looks good. I mean, it doesn't look like, oh, that side it kind of looks a little green or anything like that. It just looks pretty neutral in my opinion. Then for my concealer, I'm going to be using the Hard Candy Glamouflage concealer that I always use, and I'm just going to apply that right under my eye, and then I'm going to blend that out with my beauty sponge. So I still think concealer totally makes a world of a difference, but it definitely helped a lot having that color corrector first. And here is the cushion. As you can see, it's really dark and it's more of a, what I would consider like a warm tone kind of bronzer. So for me, it's not the ideal kind of contour kind of color. I prefer things to be a little bit more gray toned, but I will try this and see if it works. And it's also a bit different for me to be applying like a bronzer or a contour with this kind of sponge. So what I think I'm going to do is kind of use this to dab on most of the product, but I think I'm going to go back to my actual beauty sponge, my Real Techniques sponge, to blend it out. I think as you can see, it's really pigmented and it might be just a bit dark for me, but I will blend and make it work. Missing someone is as normal. Missing someone. So for the bronzer cushion, I definitely thought it was a little bit harder to work with trying to apply like a bronzer, you know, kind of like in the contour areas with that kind of sponge. So I definitely liked using that little sponge more to just kind of get it where I wanted it, and then go back with my Real Technique sponge to further blend it out. I don't think it would have blended as easily with the cushion that it comes with. And that kind of goes the same for all of these. You could, if you wanted to, just use a you know, sponge like this to dip into the product if you didn't want to use the little sponge that it comes with. I haven't tried that yet, but I've heard a lot of people do that. So now I'm going to move on to highlighter. Again, this is the Wet n Wild Who's That Pearl. So now I'm going to just apply that to my cheekbones. I think again you can really see how much color that put on, so I'm going to go back and kind of blend that out. Okay, so that is the cushion highlighter. I'm actually like really impressed with it. Again, it's not really so much like true color that's coming through. It's just that satiny shimmer kind of highlight finish to it. It's kind of a little bit more dewy looking than just like a powder highlighter. So now I'm gonna move on to the Mimi one. Again, this one is called Luxe Pink. It's kind of hard to see if there's anything really coming up on the cushion, so let's just apply it. So there is some color there. I'm gonna try to see if I can build it up just a little bit more. So this is the color from the Memebox highlighter. I don't know if you can tell, but it kind of pulled up or disrupted a little bit of that foundation under it. So I feel like it didn't really do that on this side compared to the Memebox side. I think on the skin, the two look very similar. I think this one might have a little bit, tiny bit more of like a pinky reflex to it, where this one's more of just like a, I don't know, just kind of like a straight up like shell pink. This one kind of seems to have almost just a tiny bit more of like a duochrome-y kind of look to it, but again, it's like extremely subtle. I have to say that, you know, comparing both sides, again, this is the Wet n Wild side and this is the Memebox side plus the Wet n Wild bronzer. Overall, like when I'm just looking at it, I feel like, you know, they look the same. I feel like they achieved the same, I guess, outcome, the same result. I'm happy with both sides of them. The one thing is I do think that the highlighter on this side kind of peeled up or like disturbed some of the foundation that I was wearing. I feel like you can see a little bit of redness here. But overall, I like the way it looks. I don't think one side necessarily looks better than the other. I think that truly the difference came from the application process. I definitely think that the Wet n Wild side applied so much easier just because it was a bit more pigmented. It was easier to really cancel that color. With the Memebox side, I had to really use more, I guess, like not more product because not more product came out, but I had to do like more layers to try to build up the color as much as I could to match the Wet n Wild side. And I think consistently across the board, it's easy for me to say that the Wet n Wild side was overall just more pigmented than the Memebox side. So overall, I will give the winner of the cushions to Wet n Wild. I definitely think that with the pigmentation, it was great. The color selection, I think it's great. You do get one more color than the Memebox one. Again, that yellow color. It doesn't really necessarily correlate to being better because it just depends on how you can use that color for your skin type or your skin color or anything like that. So obviously not everyone is going to need all these colors and use them all at once, but it is nice that those options are there for you. And even though I'm not gonna lie, I don't love the functionality wise of the packaging for the Wet n Wild cushions, I still think the price is just what really puts it over the edge. So for about $6 per cushion is a great price. And again, if you're paying the full price, you're gonna pay $16, and at cheapest, you're gonna pay like $13. So for $13 versus $6, you are paying still less than half of the Mimi one. So overall, my winner goes to Wet n Wild. I even like the little sponge cushion that comes with it that you use to apply. I even like the cushion on this one more than the Mimi one. This one is like a silicone-y kind of beauty blender feeling all the way around, and the Memebox one is that silicone texture on the one side, but it is like a kind of clothy, kind of on the other side. I just found that the Wet n Wild one was a little bit more flexible to use, especially if you're applying under the eyes, where you kind of need to like pinch it to kind of get a little more precise application. I definitely think that the Wet n Wild one was a little bit better. So that's not to say that the Memebox brand one wasn't as good. I still think it's a really nice product to use, especially I just really love the highlighter one on this one. I think that for me was the standout of the Meme one. And then the standout one for the Wet n Wild one for me had to be the peach under eye one. I just feel like that one really did a huge noticeable difference for my under eye circles. I feel like I could honestly kind of get away with just using that as like a concealer kind of product. It's not overly peachy or salmony to where it needs to be covered with a foundation. You know, if I just need like something really quick to just pat on to kind of erase some of those dark circles, I felt like that could get the job done on its own. So if you're interested, I do have a coupon code for Memebox if you want to buy these cushions or anything else on Memebox's website. I will have that linked below. So that is it for my battle of the color corrector cushions. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please like and subscribe. You can follow me on Instagram, link is below. And until my next video, I will talk to you guys later. Bye.